Now it's time to show you how to install your relay basket onto the front of your RipRacer. This is what you need to install the relay basket onto the front of your RipRacer. First, you need the basket. Then you're going to need the headlight adapter. And also with that, 2 washers, 2 bolts, and 2 nuts. Then you're going to need the headlight extension cable. 4 bolts and 4 washers. 10mm, 8mm open-ended wrench. Tri-Allen tool. 3mm Allen tool. Some zip ties. And scissors. Before installing the basket, make sure you power the bike off and then remove the battery. Turn the battery off and remove the battery from the bike. We're going to start by removing the headlight, but before we do that, we're going to disconnect the headlight from the bike. Make sure that you grab both connections right here at the body before you disconnect it. Pull it out like that. Now we're going to remove the headlight from the mounting bracket. You're going to use the 10mm side of your open wrench, put that onto the nut right there, and then the 5mm side on your Tri-Allen tool. And you're going to turn it like this. We're going to remove this light from the bracket. Pull that out. Now your light is off. Now we're going to proceed to remove the bracket. Again, you're going to use the 10mm side of your wrench and 5mm of your Tri-Allen tool. Loosen it up. And now we're going to remove the bracket. Now we're going to remove the faceplate badge using a 3mm Allen. Remove the 4 bolts, holding the badge into place. Make sure to save these bolts and the badge for later use. If you decide to take the basket off, you're going to want to put these back on. Now we're going to mount the headlight bracket that came with the basket onto the basket itself. We're going to make sure you orientate it in the right position, kind of pointing up. Put it here. You're going to grab a bolt and washer. Put it through there. And then a nut goes right behind it. Just put it on by hand to begin with. Grab the other bolt and washer, put that in, and tighten the nut by hand. Okay. All right, now you're going to take your open-ended wrench on the 8mm side, put it behind the nut. On your Tri-Allen tool, you're going to take the 4mm side, put it into the bolt. Hold the nut with the wrench, start tightening it down. And do the other side, same way. Tighten it down. Now your bracket is all mounted. Now we're going to install the headlight onto the bracket. Kind of make sure your cord's kind of behind here. Line up the holes. Now take the bolt and the lock washer from the previous bracket that you removed. Put it through the holes. Take the nut and tighten it by hand. Now, take your open-ended wrench, now with the 10mm side, place it onto the nut, and then on your tri-tool, use the 5mm side, and you can tighten. You can actually use the wrench to help tighten it down. But you still have a little bit of room to check the angle later after you've put it on there. So there you go. There. Now we're going to install the extension cable. Now you're going to make sure to get the female end here. The male end over here on the headlight has the little prongs in there. You can see the red tip right here. You're going to make sure to line up the little arrows. Press it together like that. Now if you notice, there's 2 channels right here on the bottom of this basket. We're going to place the extension cable into those channels, and you're going to take a zip tie, pass it through, and don't get it too tight. We want to be able to still adjust it a little. So your zip tie is on. There, just enough. You still have room for adjustment. Now take your scissors, cut the ends. Careful not to cut the cable itself. There. Now your cable's mounted onto the bottom of the basket. Now we're going to install the basket onto the front of the bike. Grab one of the bolts, and then take a washer, put it right behind the bolt there. Now we're going to put the basket in the front of the bike. Make sure your cables here are behind it, so not in the way or being pinched. Grab the bolt and washer, line up the holes. Now that you have all 4 bolts hand tight, now we're going to take the Allen tool and use the 4mm side and start to tighten them down. I would start with one here, and then I would go diagonal across and then do the next one. Okay, now it's on there, double check, make sure they're really snug. Definitely don't want these loose. There. Now the basket is mounted onto the front of the bike. Find the end of your extension cable, and then find the cable, the headlight cable coming from the frame of the bike. Make sure you line up the 2 little arrows, press them together, and now your headlight is connected to your bike. A good tip is, if you don't want this hanging down like this, you can take a zip tie it to this harness right here. Keep it from flopping down. Carefully cut the excess off. And there, so now it's not flopping around. Now we can install the battery to check to make sure the headlight works. Turn your battery on. Make sure it's lined up with the lower dock here. Turn your key, slam the battery in, turn the bike on, press the plus button. There you go, your light is on. Now you can adjust the angle of the headlight. Adjust it to your preference. Want it looking down the road. Now is a good time to probably just tighten it down. So use the 10mm side of your open-ended wrench and the 5mm side here again. Now you can tighten the bracket down a little. Now that you have it set, all nice and tight, ready to go. Now is a good time to double check to make sure the basket is tight. Make sure all the bolts are tight. Make sure none of the cables are interfering with the wheel. They should all be away from the wheel. Make sure there's nothing obstructing or interfering from the basket interfering with your front wheel. Just a couple of things to note. The weight limit on this basket is 25 pounds. It is not intended for passengers. And make sure any cargo that you do have in the basket is secure. You're all set to ride with your RelayBasket. If you have any questions about the installation, leave a comment below. And thanks for watching.